reproduction, and the structural whole of the imaginary and the symbolic, which merely forms a myth and its variants. The difference is not between two uses of Oedipus, but between the anedible use of the inclusive, non-restrictive disjunctions and the edible use of exclusive disjunctions. Whether this last use borrows from the paths of the imaginary or the values of the symbolic, it would also be necessary to heed Lacan's word of caution considering the Freudian myth of Oedipus, which has no way of holding its own indefinitely in the forms of society where the tragic sense is increasingly lost. A myth cannot sustain itself when it supports no ritual, and psychoanalysis is not the Oedipus ritual. Even if we go back from the images to the structure, from imaginary figures to symbolic functions, from the father to the law, from the mother to the great other, in truth, the question merely retreats, and if we try to envisage the time put into the question merely retreats. And if we try to envisage the time put into this retreat, Lacan goes on to say, the sole foundation for the society of brothers, for fraternity, is segregation. What does he mean here?
There's nowhere
In any case, it was inopportune to tighten the nuts and bolts where Lacan had just loosened them, or to edibilize the schizo, where, on the contrary, he had just schizophrenized, even neurosis, injecting a schizophrenic flow capable of subverting the field of psychoanalysis. The object, small o, erupts at the heart of the structural equilibrium in the manner of an infernal machine, the desiring machine. In the second generation of disciples of Lacan's Supernes, less and less sensitive to the false problems of Oedipus. But if the first disciples were tempted to reclose the Oedipus yoke, didn't they do so to the extent that Lacan seemed to maintain a kind of projection of the signifying chains onto a despotic signifier, lacking unto itself and reintroducing lack into the series of desire on which it imposed an exclusive use? Was it possible to denounce Oedipus as myth and nevertheless maintain that a castration complex itself was not a myth but in fact something real? Wasn't this tantamount to taking up the cry of Aristotle? We really must come to a halt in the face of this Freudian Ananke, this rock.